Hello everyone and welcome to a new video program by Julia RS. In today's program, I would like to reflect further on consciousness, on human development, on our uniqueness, our unique importance in the existence of the universe. For this reason, as you can see, I have prepared a small presentation here above, illustrating with image various points about our development as human beings. In any case, as you can see from the image I have shown you, humans themselves are something minuscule in comparison to the universe, and this is itself doesn't have to be a bad thing. We are made of stardust, that is, all our atoms, everything that makes up us, ourselves, once belonged to space, was part of a star. Probably a supernova or not, an explosion of a star, matter that has been in many places in the universe. And today, all these billion of years of existence, now form part of us. Hence the famous phrase that we are stardust. Now, speaking of humanity itself, let's be realistic. Society, the elites, everything, always tries to convey a negative, pessimistic message about the future of human existence, about overpopulation, lack of resources, and it must be clarified that this is not true. And in certain sense, not only it's not true, but it's very simple. As you can see in the image I have shown you, what do you see at first glance? Look closely. A Homo sapiens approaching a dog, yes? Perhaps the image is a bit biased, if you allow me, but the fact is that until 200 years ago, 150 years ago, there was no concern for animals. Well, in small exceptions. And we see today that there are dietary habits that have been changed in the industry. This has changed to favor animal welfare. The same happened with pharmaceuticals and other fields, many more than you can imagine. And this is because humans are increasingly concerned with their fellow beings in other species, with little to say about self. And this is neither good nor bad, it is simply evolution, an evolution of consciousness. And we also see this in that being a species that has always been based on difference, on a hierarchy, on social rules, etc., more and more social movements are emerging. There is more awareness, more personal development, and most people is fighting what they consider injustice. We see this from a very young age, and in recent years it has been much more evident. However, it should be noted that there are certain forces whose interest is simply to disrupt all this, and they do so by taking control of the social struggles, making them seem like a madness. But this doesn't change the fact that humanity is evolving to a higher level of consciousness, one that is increasingly beautiful, so to speak. So, humanity's place in the universe, despite the difficulties we face today, despite the chaos surrounding us, despite the pain, anger, frustration, sadness that we are made to feel, we have this capacity that more and more, and ever, even if it doesn't seem like it, more and more people are concerned about others, and this is something worthy of admiration, and this is what we must focus on. The same goes for science fiction. Almost all science fiction, or nearly all today, is focused on making us think of a dystopian future. That is something terrible, the worst that could happen, and this has a very clear intention, and it's that when we project into the future, we prefer to live in the present without seeing hope in that future, as happens now with artificial intelligence, where fear is imposed upon us, and interestingly, I must talk about a film that breaks with all this, and that is The Wild Robot by DreamWorks, which for the first time in many years give AI such a beautiful touch. I highly recommend it, it's a beautiful movie. In short, as I was saying, all this about our existence, if you think about it now, we are made of this stardust, of matter that was created millions of years ago, that has been transformed, and now it's something that made you something new, whatever you want. And despite all this time that has passed, it so happens that it now forms part of you, forms part of me, forms part of the neighbor, forms part of the table, forms part of the webcam, whatever you want, I wonder. But there is one more interesting thing, which is the following. If you think about it, you will realize that no matter how much society, your neighbors, your family, your friends want you to compare, to feel bad, to feel good, and a thousand of other things, you are a fixed point in space and time. That is, no one in the entire existence of this vast universe has even been what you are. Not a speck of dust, not an atom, not a grain of sand on the beach has ever been like you in the entire existence of the universe. There is not a single being in the entire history of the universe that is composed of the same stardust that you are now, that has lived your experiences, that is like you, that thinks like you. It is impossible. You are this fixed point in this moment, in this point in space and time that will not repeat itself. This may be overwhelming, but at the same time, it is also a way to tell yourself that you are irreplaceable and unique. A unique instant in the history of the universe. Yes, we could delve into the extent of consciousness, memory, what makes you you, but let's leave that aside for now. Because there are more profound topics, and let's focus, let's prioritize on what you are now. Right now, you and your existence are what make you. No one else has lived it. You can compare it. You can try to find explanations, but never in the history of the universe, neither in the past nor in the future, is there anything like you. Are you aware of how important that is? To define how unique you are, I think it is worth reflecting on. And this is the idea of this video, to offer a more altruistic viewpoint, thus focusing more on the human aspect. We can say that by chance we have the privilege today of being part of an incredible, interesting civilization at a super fascinating development stage according to the Kardashev scale. The Kardashev scale measures the development stage of a supposedly intelligent civilization. Whether other civilizations would consider as intelligent is something to be seen. Forgive me for the humor. And although it has been refined over time to include more phases, it speaks like 3 phases in general. The first phase describes a civilization that controls all energy sources on a planet. Type 2 would control all energy sources of a star, for example with a Dyson sphere. And a Type 3 civilization would control all energy sources of an entire galaxy. Reflecting on this, what do you think we stand? We continue to use primitive fossil fuels. We have transportation systems that can still be considered primitive. So, if I had to place us on a scale up to 3, I could say we are at 0.6. And from this 0.6 civilization to which we belong, we already have things more typical of a Type 1 civilization. Amongst them, for instance, we could talk about the Internet. The Internet is a marvel, a communication system of a Type 1 civilization, as it is global. In our case, since we are divided by nation-states, let's say it's international. But on the scale of humanity, it is a Type 1 civilization system. We even have sports, games, recreational activities that are entirely global, so this makes them a part of a Type 1 civilization. Don't you find that it's curious that in some things we are so primitive and in others we are so advanced? It's super curious, and that's the beauty of our civilization. We are at that point where we do not know if we will be able to surpass a great filter. And you may ask, what is a great filter? Well, a great filter is a theory that suggests that when a civilization reaches a certain level of development, it encounters some type of barrier it may or may not surpass. Let's say there is a high probability that the civilization in question may not pass it. For example, we discovered fire, and that made us overcome a great barrier from that moment on, and it defined all our civilization from now on, right? And what if we hadn't discovered fire? And the same happens with the wheel, with fighting diseases, and 1,000 other things, which just tend to end up being barriers that have surely been faced by other species in other places in the universe, that may have gone through the same thing, or that prevented them from developing further, or caused them to go extinct or become an insurmountable barrier. And most likely, we are now at point in our Type 0.6 civilization, with all the nuclear weapons, with all the climate issues, with all the constant energy problems, the development of artificial intelligence, the confrontation, the primitive attitude, the desire to fight, wars, and a thousand of other stories. We are facing a great barrier, one that we do not know if we will be able to overcome or not. But this also gives us a great advantage. So it makes us spectators, even able to experience firsthand a time of magnificent changes that have never occurred in recorded human history, and I repeat, recorded. Those who understand, understand. In any case, returning to the topic, it's time for us to start evaluating ourselves, because no matter how much we compare, no matter how many difficulties we face and a thousand stories, we must be aware that we are unique and that every human being is unique in their own way. And yes, we have room for improvement. We have instincts, we have biology, we have difficulties, often economic, social, work related, etc. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, in terms of consciousness development, in existential terms, we are marvel. That is to say, perhaps this is a bit strange, but it's important to see the significance we have on an existential level, and it's important that we learn to value ourselves and see the positive side of ourselves, no matter what anyone says, no matter how much they try to bring us down, because what we have achieved, that is, all the years of life we have taken to live, overcoming so many barriers of existence itself, of life itself, of all the problems we have faced, that makes us even more interesting. Which is to say, who hasn't had a health problem, who hasn't had family problems, who hasn't faced very difficult situations, and yet we have obviously overcome them. This might leave you with trauma and a thousand issues, but it doesn't take away from the fact that all the accumulated experience is what uniquely shapes you. This makes you unique, and that is what you need to value and understand. You have a great value in terms of existence. That is to say, it's wonderful. Now, if you will allow me, I congratulate you for being you. And to conclude, I hope you enjoyed this video. I've tried to explain it with a lot of care, and most importantly, I hope my message of altruism reached you, because it was very important to me to help you understand that we all have an existential experience despite the difficulties. And well, I had loved to hear your opinions, so you can write comments, subscribe if you feel like it. But I would really like to know what you think about all this. And finally, I had like to wish you a happy day, a happy week, and thank you, as always, for listening to me. Goodbye.